Now, welcome back to Calling It. I meant to call, so I am going to start calling some games because the pun is in the name. I may as well start using it. Looking ahead to this weekend's Premier League, the return of the Premier League, the return of the hype train. Looking forward to getting some games back on TV on a regular basis and sort of getting a bit of a routine around football matches at the weekend because that's what we've been missing over the last, 3 weeks since football has been gone. So let's get into it. Here are my Premier League predictions for Game Week 1 of the Premier League. First up, we have Fulham against Arsenal at half 12. Boring enough a counter to have as your first game back in Game Week 1 in the Premier League, but hey-ho, here we are. Fulham coming up from the Championship. Scott Parker, the best dressed manager, the best hair. Can he battle it out with Mikel Arteta for the man whose hair does not move out of place? Potentially he can, but Fulham are not going to compete with Arsenal this weekend. Arsenal have improved quite a bit since last season. They brought in Gabriel from Lille. They brought in Saliba as well. And Kieran Tierney is finally fit. Saka is flying. Aubameyang is about to sign a new contract. So it's all looking pretty good for Arsenal at the minute. And Fulham are lacking in an edge without Alexander Mitrovic, who scored 26 goals for them. If he gets injured this season, they're gone. They don't have anybody. And their defence still has 3 out of the 4 defenders that were in the squad when they got relegated last time. So they're going to struggle. I think if you're going for this game, go for Arsenal. They're going to rack up a couple of goals. And if you do fancy, if you have Aubameyang in your team, I reckon he is a good shout for having as your captain. Then the 3 o'clock game, they're doing this stuttered kickoffs now that they did during lockdown, that so you can watch every game as opposed to 6 games being on at 3 o'clock during the day. So that it's good and bad. You can either get too much of a good thing, it can lead to it being a bad thing. But I mean, and if the 3 o'clock game is Crystal Palace against Southampton, which it is on Saturday, then are you going to watch it? Maybe not. Crystal Palace against Southampton, pretty boring game. Crystal Palace did well to stay up. They fell off a cliff at the end of the season. But I think I see a lot of people writing Crystal Palace as their relegation candidates. They would have been relegation candidates last year, and they surprised a lot of people. Come mid-season, people were asking, can Roy Hodgson get them into the Europa League spots? That didn't happen. I don't think they're going to be relegation candidates this year. I do think that Southampton, though, will be a team that improves massively under Hasenhüttl this year. We thought that he may have improved a lot more last year, but I do think they will see improvements again this year after that horrendous defeat to Man City. When they backed him, that's when you start seeing the players coming back up. And Danny Ings is another player. If you're doing fantasy, get him into your team because he's going to score a lot of goals. I think that's going to be a draw, though. It's a draw or a Southampton win written all over it. Crystal Palace, a boring team to watch, don't score many goals. They're not great at home, so that's why I think Southampton will actually nick this if anybody's going to nick it. But yeah, if I'm going to call it, I'm going to go Southampton win. Liverpool against Leeds at half 5. The champions against the championship champions. Marcelo Bielsa against Jurgen Klopp. It's already been pegged as this managerial masterclass clash, but as we know, a lot of them can end in boring draws, but I don't think that's going to be the case tomorrow. Liverpool fans frustrated at the fact that they haven't signed anybody, but I mean, they won the league last year. It's not as if they're going to go from league champions to 5th or 6th place just because they haven't signed anybody. They still have the talent there. They still have the guts. They actually haven't sold any of their key players yet. Gini Wijnaldum might go out the door, but apart from that, I mean, they still have the talent that won the league by how many points last year, so they're absolutely title contenders next year as well. Leeds have signed a couple of players. Rodrigo's come in, Kosh has come in from Freiburg. They've added a little bit where they needed to. They definitely needed a striker because Patrick Bamford wasn't going to do it for them, so they needed to get Rodrigo in. Rodrigo, he's not exactly what you would call a massively high-scoring striker at the same time. I think he had 8 goals for Valencia last year, so what he will improve them, because he'll give them that focal point, he may not be the 20 to 22 goal striker that they imagine they're getting, but it's going to be, Leeds are an exciting team to watch. I don't think that they have estimated how big of a leap it is to go from Championship to the Premier League. Some of their fan base think that, you know what, they might actually be competing for a Europa League spot, which they could do, but I don't think they will. Don't think they have the depth of talent, and they don't have a game plan sort of like Sheffield United, who surprised everyone this year or last season. to actually surprise everybody. It is they play good football, but they will be opened up by the better teams. So Leeds, they won't be in relegation, but they won't be challenging for Europe, I don't think. As for this game, I do think Liverpool will have too much strength for them. They'll be too strong defensively for Leeds to break down fully. But it should be a good game. That should be the game of the day. And then to finish off, West Ham against Newcastle at 8 o'clock. Why would you watch that unless you were a West Ham or Newcastle fan? You'd have to be starved of football to actually want to watch that. But David Moyes, he's not going to last, is he? He's going to be the first manager sacked, I think. Newcastle, on the other hand, have added quite well, I think. Callum Wilson, if you're backing goals, Callum Wilson to score first or Callum Wilson anytime goal scorer is not a bad shout in this game, because he scored 7 in the last 8 games against West Ham as a Bournemouth player. So always has a chance. He's going to be starting for Newcastle. Great signing up front. And then Jeff Hendricks added a little bit to the midfield, but Newcastle have improved where they want to. They will be a mid-table side. In this game, I think Newcastle are going to win this. I think West Ham are going to be desperate. They are my candidates for relegation this year. So I do think Newcastle will win this. It will not be a classic, though. That you can guarantee. Moving on to Sunday, we have West Brom against Leicester City. West Brom are a team that if they never came back to the Premier League, I would have been happy in my life. I do like Slaven Bilic, and they do have a couple of Irish players in Callum Robinson and Darragh O'Shea as well, so it's nice to see them. But West Brom as a club, I mean, there's nothing special about them unless you're from West Brom, in which case I love West Brom. But in this game, Leicester City over-reliance on Jamie Vardy. He scored 23 goals last year, or he was definitely in the 20 mark, and the next closest was Jose Perez, so they still have an over-reliance on him. But that only matters if Jamie Vardy stops scoring. He stopped scoring last season around about just after Christmas, and that's where Leicester started falling off a cliff. So they need to sort that out. But in this game, I don't think they have to worry too much about it. Leicester should probably win this game handy enough. At 4:30 on Sunday, then you have Tottenham against Everton. Tottenham are, again, they have a lot of key players back from injury. If you're watching All or Nothing Spurs, you'll have noticed how Jose Mourinho and the production staff have focused hard on how many players they're missing. So they've got all those back. They should be a fair bit better this year, and Mourinho has no real excuses if they're not better than they were last season, because this will be his first full season in charge of them. So interesting to see what they do. They will need a trophy if he wants to warrant the way that he acts. So Tottenham, massive year for them. Everton have actually added pretty damn well in this transfer market, whether it's the pull of Carlo Ancelotti or whether it's the fact that these players just don't have the reputation that they used to. But James Rodriguez seems like, on paper anyway, he's going to be a brilliant signing. He could also be one of these players that Everton absolutely love, the massively rated players who are incredibly inconsistent. You got the Richarlisons, the Iwobis. You could have the James Rodriguez's as well. But Allen from Napoli is an excellent signing as well. Defensively, they need to sort themselves out. But if they can manage that, they should be in a higher position than they were last year. They should probably be competing for that Europa League spot, but I'm not sure that the top 10 of the Premier League is quite tight this year. So do Everton have the talent? They might. They definitely will improve from last year, but I don't know if they have the talent up front. Calvert-Lewin doesn't score enough goals for me. They don't have that focal point up front that the other teams who are competing for that, like the Wolves, who have Raul Jimenez, or the likes of Tottenham of Harry Kane, Arsenal, Aubameyang. These are the teams that they're competing with. That's where Everton want to get to. They don't have that player who's going to get them 22 goals in a season. So I think they'll improve. As for this game itself, I think it's going to be a draw. They're two fairly evenly matched sides. If I was falling on one side or the other, I'd probably go Tottenham. Then at 6 o'clock on Monday Night Football is back. Sheffield United against Wolves. Sheffield, I think, are in trouble this year. They lost Dean Henderson. There's talk that they might lose Lundstrom as well. They don't have the surprise factor that they had last year. They didn't score enough goals last year, so if they don't do that, then they may struggle this year. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near where they were last year. I think they benefited from other teams being poor last year, so I wouldn't exactly make them relegation candidates, but I do think they're going to be mid-table, whereas Wolves, again, brilliant side, brilliant to watch, falter at big parts of the season, which is an issue for them, but if they can sort that out, sometimes they draw too many games that they probably should have won. So if they can sort that out, I think they're going to beat Sheffield United on Monday night away. If they can get the momentum that they had last year with Adama Traore playing consistently well, Raul Jimenez up front, Ruben Neves in midfield, they have an excellent team. And then later on the Monday night, you have Brighton against Chelsea on 8:15, which is a weird time, but Brighton managed to stay up under Graham Potter, struggled for goals despite being one of these quote-unquote good teams to watch. I didn't think Brighton were that good to watch. They're pleasant to watch. They pass the ball around. They don't hoof the ball away, but they don't score many goals. They don't create many chances. It's almost more like a Louis van Gaal style football where they keep the ball, keep possession, move it about, but they don't have that killer pass in the final third to actually break sides down. So they actually were quite boring at times to watch, but I do think they were improved this year. Adam Lallana is a good signing to come into that side, so they will improve. I think they will be just above the relegation to maybe mid-table again next year. I can't see any massive improvements with them. But Chelsea, on the other hand, are a team that have made tons of signings because the greatest manager in the world, Frank Lampard, is managing them, and it's the Frank Lampard effect. Any player he talks to, he just want to sign for Chelsea. So they have brought in Kai Havertz, they brought in Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, Thiago Silva, Sarr, Ben Chilwell. They've added excellently. I mean, left back, they needed a left back badly. Marcos Alonso wasn't good enough anymore, so Ben Chilwell's a great option if he can stay fit. In the defence, Thiago Silva, is he good enough at this level? Does he have the pace? He's definitely a good character to have around the pitch, definitely a good leader to have, and a bit of a rock in that defence if he's going to start, but he just doesn't have the pace. So he's going to need Rudiger or Zuma or someone with a little bit of pace beside him to make up the hard yards if he's going to be starting for them up front. But they are one of the most dangerous outfits in the league if they can click. I can't figure it out in my head how they're actually going to start all of those players. Kai Havertz has to start, Timo Werner has to start. You're probably looking at Tammy Abraham dropping out of the team altogether, and Hakim Ziyech isn't a guaranteed starter, but he is a good option to have. Pulisic, if he can start the season the way that he finished without getting injured, he's a great option as well. So it's hard to know how they're going to click and find the right places for those players. You don't want a situation where you're looking at what Tottenham did after Bale left, signing a load of players that just didn't fit together, and you end up selling most of them. So for Chelsea's sake, hopefully that's not the case. If they can find a way to make this click, then they are definitely title contenders, because that's one of the best squads in the league. Might be slightly imbalanced towards the attack and the defence, but that's probably what Frank Lampard wants at the minute. He wants to attack teams, he wants to score goals, sort of like he was as a player. This will be a probably straightforward game for them. I can't see Brighton causing them any massive issues unless the team doesn't click. If the team doesn't click, sometimes it just doesn't work, no matter how good the players are in the team. So I think Chelsea are going to win this. So just a recap on my predictions for the weekend: Arsenal to beat Fulham, Southampton to beat Crystal Palace, Liverpool to beat Leeds, Newcastle to beat West Ham away, Leicester to beat West Brom, Tottenham and Everton to draw, Wolves to beat Sheffield United, and Chelsea to beat Brighton. What do you think? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Who do you think is going to win the league this year outright? I'm not so sure it's going to be Liverpool. I'm not so sure it's going to be Man City. It's going to be a lot tighter this year, I think. Let me know what your predictions are for the league. Who's going to be top goal scorer? Comment below. Let me know what you think of the prediction for this weekend, and let me know your predictions as well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe. I will be doing a lot more predictions going forward for the next couple of weeks and next couple of months as well, with the Premier League back. I'm Andy Call, has been calling it. Thanks for watching.